It was just another autumn day in the 1960s in a small village in northern Bosnia. The fairies were dancing kola right on the road next to the creek.
And how do we know that?
Well, Baba Yanya said so. She saw it with her own eyes, and her sight was said to be marvelous.
And there was no reason not to believe her.
Because the first inhabitants of the small village were none other than the fairies themselves. It was a well known thing that while they were roaming the hills and doing the chores like dancing, their children were kept safe in caves,
But watching the fairies came with a warning.
especially for young men.
If they saw you, the chances were they would pull you into their kola and make you dance the entire night.
Many young men, they say, met their end from sheer exhaustion after these endless feverish dances. Probably, allegedly.
Probably means that this did not happen all the time.
One night, my uncle was hoping to see the fairies, but instead of dancing, he spent the night sitting next to the road until he fell asleep. This knowledge about the crazy dancers was passed down to my mom by her parents, just as they had heard it from their parents. But who was the first to share these guidelines about living alongside the fairies? Baba Yaga's ancestors were Slavic tribes who arrived 14 centuries ago. They brought their gods, fairies, and creatures. After the villagers became Christians, the gods and creatures were gone, but the fairies, they remained as regular tenants even long after their origins were forgotten. And that is how Baba Yaga saw the fairies. Over the centuries, many stories have lost their creators, characters, and words, becoming faceless and traceless. If they were lucky enough, fragments of them remain, floating on the surface of collective memory, and barely escaping the erasure of time. Even the name of the village is a mystery. Strepci. Some speculate that it comes from the Bosnian word strepiti, which means to dread. The name first appeared in the 15th century, and it was a time when there was plenty to dread, but mostly the Ottoman Empire. One tragic reminder is the bloody wedding, but that story is for another video. Many centuries later, just before the World War II, my grandma, Manda, moved to the village to marry my grandpa, Luca. She was an 18-year-old girl with a bit of mythological background herself. Her grandfather lived to be 116. He outlived all of his wives, including the last one, whom he married at the age of 100. That last wife was my grandma's grandmother. I don't know much about them, except that he supposedly ate 12 plums before every meal, which, according to legend, was the secret to his longevity. They lived in the house my great grandfather had built 102 years ago. Most of the time, it was filled with laughter, first words, and steps, as they raised 9 children. It was also filled with hard work, the smells of fresh apples and plums. They worked tirelessly in the fields and carried the products to town to sell. It was filled with fun and joy. People would dance kola on almost every possible occasion. For example, on their way to church, which was about 3 kilometers from the village, people would stop 4 times in order to dance kola. The first stop was usually at the water source, the second at the old oak tree, the third at the road crossing, and the last one right before entering the church. And they sang out loud while washing clothes in the river or leading their cattle to pasture. Villagers looked after one another's children, and the elderly too. Baba Mara, for instance, would spend her days wandering without remembering to turn back. One time, after her family searched for her the entire day, they finally found her in a neighboring village. Her son asked the other villagers that the next time they see her, to gently take her by the shoulders and turn her around. From then on, Baba Mara spent her days walking up and down the same road, safely within the village. It was also a place of miracles. One evening, a dragon flew across the sky. And how do we know that? Oh, yeah, Baba Yaga said so. She saw it with her own eyes, and her sight was said to be marvelous, especially when she was young. It happened at the beginning of the 20th century. Couldn't have been later than 1905. It was getting dark, the sun nearly set, when a shiny object appeared, moving across the sky above the village. It was nothing like Baba Yaga had seen before, nor later, but she knew what it was: the dragon. And there was no reason not to believe her. Because it was a well-known thing that Saint George had slain one of the dragons himself. And that is how Baba Yaga saw the dragon. It is a place of free religions, where the Hajis call to prayer echoes from one hill, surrounding crosses that glisten in the sun on the other. But it was also a place of bloodbaths, mindless killings, and suffering. Wicked minds, thirsty for blood, convinced many people that calling God by a different name or making a cross in a different way was worth killing for. Even in the cruelest times, many people held on to their humanity and did not strip others of theirs. These stories were once the reality of people long gone. They mattered to them, and they mattered to me. Perhaps, in some way, they might matter to you too. A story about life has a life of its own. It drifts across timeline, from those who went through it, to becoming an occasional anecdote shared over coffee with family, and eventually to the moments when there's no one left to tell it. And then the words unravel and return to their owner, buried with their bones and covered by the eternal layers of oblivion and silence. These stories are those anecdotes told over coffee in my family. This is my attempt to give them a little more time, a few extra moments before they too join their owners. And if you give a chance, you might recognize something familiar, maybe echoes of your own life, or the lives of your ancestors, no matter how different we might seem. So, pour yourself a cup. I have some stories to tell. Meanwhile, Baba Mara is back from her walk. It is getting dark, and the monster is lurking in the woods.